Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sportscasters alongside Tommy Armstrong and William Rosen. I'm Derek Dowgiallo. This is part of the student section. New edition here today. We're going to kind of talk about the 2024-2025 Marist season. We're going to first go through the football season. First year head coach Mike Willis. It was kind of a development season with him for the first year at the helm for him.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Willis, when me and Tommy and you got a chance to meet him for the first time, there was a different mindset than in previous years with Jim Parody. He's a great guy, Mike Willis. And the season, though record-wise, and this is not Marist, truth, this is the truth, the season didn't go according to plan on the winning percentage-wise. But the team really showed that they are built together. And while these guys weren't necessarily Mike Willis's guys, a lot of these guys were here in the previous regime. And over the next couple of years, Mike and Coach Willis and his staff are going to get his guys in, right? So going forward, I think that obviously there's so many better ways to go out than with one win. But I feel like this was a great start. And of course not in the winning percentage because fans, students don't really get what's going on behind the scenes. But I feel like it was a very good way, especially speaking towards the team and the staff. Recruiting-wise, it's going to just continue to get better.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part of it when you have a first-year head coach. Obviously, it's really tough to come in right away and make an impact off the first year. It kind of takes that full year to get into the swing of things. As you mentioned, bring in your type of guys, have your own full year of recruiting before you get to it. That being said, there was a few home games where Marist, which is good news, where it was in the game till the end of it. The St. Thomas one, the Valparaiso one specifically. And a few of those you'd like to see chalk up as a win.
I agree. 100%.
At the end of the day. There was a couple of those, especially late game situations where Marist really had a chance to kind of steal a win. And you'd like, in year number one under Coach Willis, to have that home win solidified. At the end of the day, that Stetson one was a big win. It was a nice one at the end of the year. They continuously got better, progressed throughout the entire way. And that's exactly what, Will, you were hinting at, that lead into next year and under Mike Willis's regime.
What I thought was fantastic was Sonny Menino. I mean, his performance the entire season, he wasn't even the starting quarterback at the beginning of the year. He came in and showed that he is actually one of the best players in the Pioneer Football League. And, I mean, we're lucky to have him. As you see his arm talent, he could throw a rocket. He could run for a touchdown. In that Stetson game, I was lucky to be down there. It was electric, absolutely electric. He scored, I think, 3 rushing touchdowns. He threw. He may or may not be a wide receiver. We'll see it next year. I mean, the guy is seriously very talented. I think that's what you're going to look forward to on the offense next year.
Yeah, and I think you talk about him not being the starting quarterback at the start of the season. That's a big adjustment. Enzo Arjona goes down early on in the season. You got to kind of readjust everything. And first year, I don't know what you guys were expecting in terms of Marist football team, but when you got a first-year head coach trying to get all the new players and everything's going to be new, you can't expect to just year one all of a sudden flip the script and you're going to win 6, 7, 8 games. This was a team under Jim Parody for the majority of his time here was in the middle of the conference, never really got over the hump. So you can't expect too much, especially at the first year. And you talk about the development process. To me, the biggest thing for that team was the offense. At times the defense wasn't there, but the offense showed improvement throughout the entire season. That's what I liked to see out of the football team for this season.
100%. The offense was totally there, and Coach Willis has a way different mindset than Parody. I mean, the age is completely different. Mike Willis is very young and very bright coming out of Princeton, and his whole thing is going by the book. He has no personal input to any play that happens, allegedly, during the game. That's something that I found incredibly shocking. He is entirely analytics-based, and he's not going to change his mindset, and that's, I think, why Tim Murray and the school really trusts him.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach, as you say, but he is a prepared coach at the end of the day, and it's going to take, as we said, a full swing, get that full year under. It's hard to come in and make an impact right away, but especially when you're leaning on who you thought was your starting quarterback. He goes down early. It's a complete switch from even stepping in day one, what you thought your team would look like for the entire season, and then you kind of have to adjust on the fly to already being year number one. So tough job as a season as a full, but we'll see how he bounces back in year two.
And there were some serious adjustments in a different sport. I mean, we saw it on the basketball, on the hardwood. The women's basketball team had to make some serious adjustments, losing Zaria Shazer, the best scorer, one of the better scorers in the history of the school. they lost her. So where was the offense going to come from? It came from a lot of directions.
Yeah, and I think you talk about the lot of directions in terms of the women's basketball side. We knew what Morgan Lee was going to bring to the table a little bit. Transfer from Georgetown, came in, started. You saw progress. This year kind of really took off in terms of the production from her. But to me, it was about the guard play. At times, the team chemistry within the women's basketball team wasn't there last year. This year it was there. You could see guard after guard. Just seeing Jackie Pittick. I've got class with Julia Corstantino and Malia Egan, and after class, they're always going to the McCann gym, and you always can see Pittick after her class.
Where was this class held?
This class is in, I'm leaving a blank, it's in Donnelly. But after the class, Pittick always comes in and talks to them. So just that team bonding to me in terms of after a class is done, you see another teammate kind of being with you and walking to McCann afterwards. So I think the team chemistry is a lot better than what it was, especially last season.
When you talk about that chemistry, you talk about kind of building the culture. I think that's a fantastic segue from we were just talking about Coach Willis and the football team into the women's basketball team. It was year 2 under Coach Dowdy, and you saw the progression from year
100%.
1 to year 2, and that's what you're going to want and expect from the Marist football team at the same time. It's tough to do it in year 1. The women's basketball team had the same problem, and then they came out of the gates firing, preseason ranked 11th, and then all of a sudden they're the 4 seed headed into the MAAC.
Yeah, everybody stepped up. When you lose your number one scorer, they had especially their rookie class. They had one of the best players in the conference. Danny Williamson comes in, steps in, and she proved herself. I mean, she was legit. Started almost every game for the Red Foxes, and she showed her prowess. She could drive. She could shoot the free throw. She could shoot the 3 ball. She can get the contact. Very good half-court defender. Her paired with Jackie Pittick in her first year was a perfect pair. They played off each other really, really well. And I'm not going to say worried, but without Morgan Lee next year, who will be moving on to Clemson in the ACC, where is that interior defense going to be? Because the defense is really on the perimeter. I know that we're bringing in a few other players, but I feel like that's going to be a big loss. But I know Aaron Dowdy and the coaching staff are definitely going to make a nice change there.
I'll give you a hot take.
Please do.
Actually.
Oh, God.
So Morgan Lee transferring, I think, is actually a good thing for the women's team.
All right.
I think when you're talking about this entire team, we talk about chemistry. When you have a player in Morgan Lee who wants the ball and gets the ball pretty much most often out of anybody, without her, you can spread the floor a little bit, better spacing. You look at the MAAC in entirety. The team that you look at, to me, is Fairfield. They don't have your typical bigs. They have road runners in terms of the athleticism on the court. You get rid of Lee. You add people with more athleticism on the court. I think spacing is also a bigger thing for Marist. So I'm not saying it's going to be, oh, you lose Morgan Lee, everything's going to be fine. But I can kind of see a little bit of, I don't think it's going to be as big of a loss as some would say.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree or agree because we haven't seen them play. So the take is in the air. But you kind of saw it on the men's side the past 3 seasons. You had Patrick Gardner. They played through him, right? A little bit of Isaiah Brickner, the 1-2 game, but it was mainly Patrick Gardner focused. The following year, you lose Patrick Gardner. You replenish that with Max Allen. You play through Max Allen the entire year.
Very different players.
Very different players, but you're still playing through a 6'8+ big man.
Yep.
And it works. Sometimes if there's foul trouble, then you're kind of screwed. But this season on the men's basketball side, that was not the case. It was playing through guard play.
Yep, and it's going to be that adjustment for the women's team, and it's so important. This long off season, you saw who Coach Dowdy brought in her first recruiting class with the freshmen. Mentioned Danny Williamson, fantastic year, and that's someone who they're going to build this program with. But at the same time, we know how this transfer portal is now. It's going to be important to bring in some size to replace Morgan Lee, but at the same time now, since she's the focal point as the interior game, she can stretch the floor, but it's going to be a completely different look now. Going to have some wing shooters, going to have to build that physicality and make sure you have that interior presence still at the same time.
You mentioned the transfer portal. It's not even going to be only a different look for Marist. It's going to be a completely different look throughout the MAAC, more on the men's and women's side. But there's just going to be a completely different way. If you say you wanted to guard Manhattan a certain way this year, it was going to be different than the way it was guarded 2 years ago. And it's going to be different than the way it's guarded this year. You're losing all these players who you build schemes around year wide. And in previous years, I would say prior to 2019, if you had a game plan one year, it was pretty similar to the next year. But there are going to be teams that are completely regenerated. They're just completely different. And on the men's side and the women's side here at Marist, comparatively, they're not. They're not losing that many people, which I think is a big plus for Poughkeepsie.
Yeah, and I think you talk about the transfer portal. Look at Iona. You have a new coach now. Tobin Anderson is gone out the door, and you have a new coach coming in. Well, they had Rick Pitino not long ago, so completely different coaching staff with Iona. You look at MAAC. Bud Clark is gone. Mtunu's gone. New look there. So I think you look at all the conference realignment, all the transfer portal, it's pretty much chaotic. But when you look at Marist,
Pretty good
it's
continuity.
not chaotic.
No.
You're maybe losing one or two players here and there this year, and I don't think it's that bad. When you look at the men's side, the biggest loss, though, is Josh Pasquarelli. You have other players transferring, but none of big note for the men's basketball side, at least.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the major thing that Coach John Dunn, and even the same thing for the women's side, is going to have to find out very quickly. This transfer portal still somewhat of a new thing, and Marist, as all the other teams in the MAAC, being a smaller conference, smaller division, there's going to be that type of movement going in and out. When they're standout players, they're going to enter the portal. Some team's going to pick them up. So it's going to be, how do these coaches respond year in and year out? First, recruiting and being able to pull some good recruits from the portal. We even saw what he did a couple of years ago, finding Patrick Gardner, who was a diamond in the rough. No one heard about him. Then fantastic recruiting from Coach John Dunn. So it's going to be how they bounce back, try and build a roster, but at the same time, just keep that same culture from year to year.
Yeah, the non-freshman recruiting by Coach Dunn and his staff has been really fantastic. Bringing Max Allen from San Jose State, Gardner from D2, from junior college, wherever he came from. Finding these players, Elijah Lewis this year, who is a main staple in the offense. There's a way that these teams can be built, not necessarily to make success happen for 2+ years, but the 2-year mark. If you have 2 years of a player, consistent success, and then they move up, usually they won't move down with their success. I think that's what's going to be the staple of MAAC conference, I would say, success for the next couple of years, because realistically, unless you're Iona, who can hand out a quote-unquote unlimited check comparatively to the conference, I don't think you're going to be holding guys for 2+ years. We saw it with Josh. And I think him leaving was the right move. It was the right move, whether you like it or not.
Right.
Yeah, it just makes sense.
As a Marist fan, of course, you're not going to see him play next year. It hurts, but Colorado State, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's an unbelievable move.
Yeah.
But 2 years of success from a player, I think, is going to be the new standard.
Yeah, and I think also you look at John Dunn, you talk about the success of players. From a talent evaluation standpoint, I love it. You're bringing in guys from the portal almost year in and year after year, and they're producing. You don't typically see that from other teams. Usually it's like, oh, you have to adjust to going to a new school.
Right.
But with Marist, you're adding portal guys, and right from the get-go, they're producing to a certain extent.
I think it's going to be the biggest thing, and just building on from each season, building on from each recruitment class. And it'd be nice to see Coach Dunn grab a couple of more freshmen, I say, that can make an immediate impact. But you even look at this last one, Tariq Watson was a 3-star recruit coming in. So that's already a big plus. And now you saw what type of season Marist had. And then all of a sudden, you can maybe pull a couple more guys in.
And now this is going to be the focus for the next many years. Marist just re-signed John Dunn on a new contract. So any questions of will this continue? It will. Tim Murray believes in it. The basketball staff believes in it. And Kevin Wyman believes in it as well.
I mean, why not when you look at it from a standpoint of since the last couple of years, Marist has had success, especially in the regular season, getting to that point where you talk about however many years it took. It seems like it's been forever since Marist was in the discussion to make it to the finals in the MAAC tournament. Now you have it and done. You have some stability. To me, that's a good sign.
And I've said it a couple times already, but it's just going to be constantly how you build on from season to season, because Marist is doing great things. The recruiting classes are getting better. The transfer portal is getting better. They're putting together full regular seasons. At the same time, Coach Dunn, he's done a great job in the MAAC tournament in the last few years, but now it's just going to be fully putting it together, building to actually creep into that MAAC championship.
Well, I saw what you did there. Coach Dunn has done it. Inadvertent joke.
I actually didn't even pick that up myself.
Well,
so
there you go.
thanks, Will.
and it's not just success on the hardwood and outside on Tenney Stadium for football. I feel like we spoke about this on the previous segment of the student section, which you just saw earlier. We just saw it. This entire season has felt pretty successful in Marist Athletics, right? Not necessarily with. It just feels like we mentioned in your freshman year. I'm going to be here for a little bit, but your freshman year, sports were not at the forefront, right? Right now, it feels like, hey, there's a soccer game. That's like kind of, I wouldn't say normal, but it is relatively normal to get to. That didn't happen your freshman year.
Yeah, I'd agree, and I just think it's not even like a turn the page, quick fix. I think number one, it's getting fans in attendance. What's the number one thing to get fans in attendance?
Giveaways.
Win games
Nope.
and giveaways. So when you're actually winning, more people are going to show up. But I think it's more about the culture that has happened in terms of Marist. When you're building a winning culture, people want to kind of buy into it. As a smaller school in Division I, you need fan bases. You kind of need that. You need that edge. And I
You
feel
know
like,
about that edge.
And I feel like Marist kind of has that edge right now, and that's, I think, what's really led to success.
Yeah, there's just that feel around it. Even in the last 4 years, you could see it. There wasn't that type of culture when we came in.
Well, you came in 21, right?
Right.
So that's
right
fresh off of COVID.
Right after COVID,
So
yeah.
you had some restrictions still on players. You had eligibility concerns. We're kind of, I mean, besides the NIL stuff, we are back to regulation college
Correct.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I feel like coming back out of COVID, that kind of just reset the 2020, 21, 22, 23. We saw it going back, and now, hey, we are at a school with 23 Division I sports, excluding club sports. Let's go support our squad.
Yeah, and I think all the teams and the Athletics itself are in go mode. They've done a fantastic job at rebounding from after that and building winning products, building entertaining products that fans are going to want to come out and see.
Well, you guys are talking a lot about winning. How about that softball team? They can win. They can win
They can
That
a lot of
softball
games.
team is one of the best teams that this school has ever housed.
They got 40 wins on the season.
Second time ever.
Time ever.
Second time ever.
This is a historic year. What are your guys' thoughts just on the softball team and the amount of success that they've had the last couple of years? You could arguably say that the softball team could be the best team on campus for the last couple of years.
I don't think that's that arguably. I would say that pretty confidently.
Yep.
The only bad thing about this season is that fans haven't really been able to see it at home. That is the only bad thing that can be talked about. As you know, the home games have been played at Army's field, as the conditions of our field, unfortunately, have not been up to par / a hole in the outfield. But it might be part of how we're doing so good. The kind of momentum on the backside of, hey,
It's that edge, man. It's that edge.
Yeah, but right? Do you think that kind
No,
of...
I actually think it's the edge. You might think I'm joking.
I don't think
but
you're joking.
But I think you have that certain edge about you when you're not playing at home throughout the entire season. Talk about earlier, well, teams were struggling. They needed to figure it out.
They just needed that edge.
They just needed that edge. You kind of need that slap in your face once in a while. That's what feels like Marist is having, and it's working.
Tommy, do you agree that Marist is having a little slap in the face moment?
I agree. I think this team definitely has a chip on their shoulder, and I think we saw that because of last season. I mean, they were fantastic last season as well. They were the team that was supposed to win the MAAC. They go into the MAAC tournament and drop 2 straight. It's something that was completely unexpected. They were hosting, and now this team is coming full force.
I agree. There are so many records being set as well with this
It's
team.
crazy.
Haley R, Peyton Pusey, Maddie Pleasance. They are powerhouse, and a lot of them are returners from last year.
Can't forget Maya McDonald.
Maya McDonald, of course. I mean, how can you forget Maya McDonald? Derek, it's not just the softball team, though. There's one more team in the playoffs currently.
It's the lacrosse team, and I'll tell you what, especially throughout kind of the entire season, not even just this season, but lacrosse in general, the women's side and the men's side. I'll focus more on the men's side because they've had more recent success. To me, when I look at the team, I don't watch a ton of lacrosse, but since being in college, lacrosse is one of those sports that I feel like you have to watch more because it's more entertaining from a standpoint of more goals than you'd expect, more loud environment. The actual players on the field are more energetic than other sports in general. And I think when you're looking at a lacrosse team in the MAAC tournament, for the last couple of years, it seems like they ended up going to the tournament and played, I want to say, Bryant or Providence, and they lost that game.
Or Duke.
No, they played in
Marist
Rhode Island.
Marist played
They
Duke
played in,
the other,
they
a few
played in
years
Rhode
ago.
Island one year, and I can't remember who they played in Rhode Island. I want to say it was they played Providence.
Marist?
Marist did.
I'm pretty confident they played Duke as well. Could we get the Tommy checker on that one?
Is this the 2023 season we're talking about?
I want to say.
Yes, I'm talking about the 2023 season.
Delaware? Does that ring a bell?
Well, we were both wrong.
We're both wrong. Well, whatever. But when they had a game away for a tournament, they had a bus that ended up going to the tournament for a bunch of support. I know 2 or 3 years ago, they played a team, and a bunch of my friends ended up traveling to the game too. So I feel like lacrosse is one of those sports where it gets lost in the luster a little bit, where people actually go to the games. They actually go from Marist to wherever the location site is, and I think that's something that people are like, oh, lacrosse, that's kind of not as important of a sport, but it actually is when you look at the team support.
Well, I think they just want to lacrosse it off their bucket list.
Nice.
Tommy.
I gotta follow that up.
Yeah.
No, Derek, I agreed with a lot of the points you said. I, especially coming into college, wasn't as big of a fan as lacrosse. I didn't watch it much, and now getting to call some games for it, study the game, watch
Tommy's
it live.
called a bunch of games this season.
Yeah, quite a few, and I definitely have a newfound love for the sport, and this Marist team in itself, too. They have a ton of energy.
Mhm.
It's a similar thing to softball, where 2 years ago, obviously, they won it. They had a season last year.
It's very similar.
Yeah, it was
Set edge.
slightly disappointing, and they have a lot of older guys, seniors, graduate students that came back because they want one more run at it. Then they got a couple of new faces that are making an immediate impact, some freshmen and some sophomores that weren't even on the 2023 championship team that are ready to play.
And a new head coach, too, which
Yes.
you would think, hey, maybe it would take some time, but when you bring in an assistant that was
Right,
already
right.
with the program and then promote them to head coach, you can start to feel that it's going to be a little bit faster.
So, Tommy, Derek, you two are not going to be here next year. Unfortunately, you will be here, but not at Marist University. Just wrap up your experience this year behind the booth.
Man, it was incredible. From the jump, I came a couple of weeks early to school because the soccer season kicked off, so was on the mic. Got to share the booth with Brandon Ross, who I've had a lot of games with. He just had his final game here for the last lacrosse playoffs. Got to do that with him as well. And yeah, it was just a full season put together. Got to do soccer and lacrosse to start. A lot of radio games with my friend Derek here when the football season was on. Basketball jumped right into it. A couple of sideline reports for that as well. So, I mean, just fantastic stuff, even in the studio, shooting the student section, shooting the Red Fox report. It's been an absolute blast, and I love everything that
It's been a
Marist does here.
fantastic tenure. I've only been here 2 years, but it's been a fantastic tenure with you, Tommy. Derek.
It was interesting. I kind of started this year. My mission was I want football games to be broadcasted by students in some capacity. Well, guess what? Mission 1, check mark. That's what we like to see. Tommy and I were probably on games, I want to say 2 or 3 of football.
Yeah, I think
something
we
like
did 3
that.
together. Yep.
So like that was a big goal of mine. Football was good. Then you kind of fast forward. You kind of had this little break in terms of what's the next sport coming. Basketball, both men's and women's basketball games. Call a lot of radio games for those, which are always fun. Especially going into college, you kind of have your big sports. Basketball to me is one of the easier ones
Right.
to call. And then you kind of move a little bit forward. Baseball, softball coming up with the scheduling of baseball not playing home games in March, softball not playing home games until April. It kind of like throws in a wrench into all my plans of like.
And Derek is the schedule master.
I'm not sure
for the
when we're
student
getting
broadcasts.
games, what's happening. A bunch of people asked me about broadcasting opportunities for lacrosse. Those are a lot easier to figure out. However, you're talking about deadlines. When you're talking about deadlines and stress, when you hear that, hey, you have to find 2 broadcast partners for a game the next day, and you're in a class at 2:00, and you're like, what's going on? Like, I gotta find this in like 2 hours.
I feel like everyone can relate to this, right?
2 hours, and you're trying to figure it out, and you're
Normal
just
problems.
like, what's going on?
Is this what I'm going to be having next year?
Yeah, this is exactly what you're going to be having. So when you're in class, be ready to get your phone out. Make sure that you can send a bunch of text messages. But an overall fantastic year, just because like you learn so much about kind of the organization process and kind of Marist Athletics. There's so many people, especially in that athletic department, that I want to thank. Just for everything that they've done for me the last 2 years, especially with broadcasting, but the full 4 years.
Anybody by name?
Nick Skidmore, Harrison Baker, Jack Darling. I mean, there's so many other people. Mark Phillips. There's so many people to name that it's almost like it's almost not necessarily the best thing to name everybody because there's so many names that have helped me throughout my entire career, and it's been an absolute blast.
I feel like it's an emotional goodbye, saying goodbye to both of you, leaving the broadcast sector of Marist in very, very good hands with everybody who is in the sports communication area, people that are going to be coming in next year, and then some juniors and some sophomores that'll be coming through the ranks.
All right, Tommy, any last words before we kind of wrap up everything?
As you mentioned, Will, I'm very excited to see where all of Sportscom takes things in the next few years. While you guys are still here, we're leaving it in great hands. Thank everyone for all the help on the way. It's been a blast.
It's been a very good year. Like to Derek, I want to thank everybody in Marist Athletics, Gary Sussman, Eugene Barbieri, Parker O'Brien, Lucas Banquero, and everybody who has helped us do everything we need behind the scenes at the student section, Marist Athletics, and throughout sports communication. This has been episode 1, the series premiere and series finale of Sports Broadcasters, a student section idea. Take care.